Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Exploring Census Data webinar series, where each month we walk through different census data organized by topics. To those that have been following our series over the years, welcome back and thank you for your continued support. So my name is Linda Lee, and today we will be taking a look at workers and jobs and how they interact across the economy. You'll have answers to questions such as where workers live in relation to where they work and much, much more. There will also be a live demonstration of the data tools, and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions during the Q&A segment as well. Now, I'd like to go over a few items to help ensure that your webinar experience goes smoothly as possible. Please note that we are utilizing technology from multiple locations, and we aim to provide you with the best experience possible. Should we experience any technical delays during our session, please utilize the Q&A feature to let us know of issues, and we will mitigate them as soon as possible. The chat panel will be a one-way communication. We'll send you a few notes and links in the chat panel. However, for questions that you would like to send us, please use the Slido Q&A panel. If you would like to ask a question, click on the three dots in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and open the Slido. Be sure to have the Q&A tab selected. There will be a box at the bottom where you can type in your question. Also, please be aware that after you submit your question, you may need to click on the My Questions tab to see your response, and then click on the View Replies to see the actual response. Now, as a reminder, please do not enter any sensitive information into the Q&A panel. This includes personally identifiable information, business identifiable information, or any other sensitive personal information. Also, if you have trouble viewing the slides or encounter audio problems, try leaving and rejoining the session, as this usually resolves these issues. All right, so I have great news. If you miss anything today, don't worry. The recording, slides, and transcript for this webinar will be posted on census.gov in the Census Academy section in a few weeks, so stay tuned. And with that, please join me in welcoming our presenter today, Ms. Earlene Dowell. Earlene is a Supervisory Program Analyst with over 15 years of specializing in the Longitudinal Employer-Household Dynamics products, which we also affectionately refer to it by its acronym, the LEHD. As a subject matter expert, Earlene is very proficient in training people on how to use data tools such as OnTheMap and several Explorer tools as well, such as the quarterly workforce indicator, the job-to-job flows, the post-secondary education outcome, to name a few. And now I would like to turn it over to my colleague, Earlene.
Thank you, Linda. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us and inviting me to share some of the LEHD data tools to look at America's workforce. As Linda mentioned, my name is Earlene, and I've been lucky enough to have been at the Census Bureau since 2010. Initially, I served a short stint in the Public Information Office as a media specialist during the 2010 decennial. Since then, I've been training and promoting LEHD products. LEHD products are different from other census data in the fact that our data comes from our Local Employment Dynamics, or LED partnership, which is a voluntary federal-state partnership. The LEHD program houses the LEHD products. Since the 1990s, the program has explored the interactions between workers and firms by linking employer and household data. Under the partnership, states share administrative data, which include their unemployment insurance or UI wage records, and their quarterly census of employment and wages, or QCEW data, which is then combined with censuses and surveys to create this dynamic information on workers to produce public use data products as well as microdata products. The UI records give us job data, the QCEW gives us firm data, and our person data comes from censuses and surveys. The map to the right shows our active state partners in blue. LEHD has 3 main data sets and 2 experimental data sets. Each data set has an application for easy access. Each data set, along with each data tool, is unique in its own way. If you are curious about employment, hires, separations, turnovers, and earnings, you would look at the quarterly workforce indicators, or QWI, utilizing the QWI Explorer, the LED extraction tool, or Census API. If you want to look at statistics on job mobility across state boundaries or industries, transitions between jobs by timing and firm or worker characteristics, or earning changes due to job changes, you would use our job-to-job or J2J flows data using the J2J Explorer and the LED extraction tool. If you want to look at employment for detailed and customized geography, you would look at the LODES data or the LEHD Origin Destination Employment Statistics using the OnTheMap or OnTheMap for Emergency Management data tools and in the LED extraction tool. As mentioned on the previous slide, you can find LODES data also in the OnTheMap for Emergency Management, but you will also find the American Community Survey and the 2020 Decennial datasets in this data tool in order to analyze potential impact on jobs and workforce during a natural disaster. One of our experimental datasets is the Post-Secondary Employment Outcomes, or PSEO. This experimental dataset reports earnings by institution, degree field, degree level, and graduation cohort for 1, 5, and 10 years after graduation and is accessible through the PSEO and Census API. The current release now includes data on 952 institutions, which covers more than 35% of all college graduates in the U.S. PSEO is a data product generated by linking graduate transcripts, records to LEHD data on graduates of participating post-secondary institutions in the U.S. Another experimental dataset is the Veteran Employment Outcomes, or VEO. VEO initially covered labor market outcomes for U.S. Army veterans. The update expands VEO coverage to also include data on the Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard veterans discharged between 2002 and 2021. These data show earnings and employment outcomes of more than 2.8 million formerly enlisted service members. Coverage includes labor market outcomes 1, 5, and 10 years after discharge by military occupation, rank, demographics, industry, and geography of employment. Finally, we have the LED extraction tool. This data tool provides easy access to the raw data products to the QWI, J2J, and LODES datasets. In addition to the data tools, raw data downloads are available along with LEHD microdata for approved projects through our secure census research data centers. Let's begin with OnTheMap and ask the question, how many people commute to a city versus lives there? This tool allows us to analyze the workforce in a selected area, workforce flows, and commuting patterns. OnTheMap is a web-based mapping and reporting application that shows where workers work and where they live, and it provides companion reports on age, earnings, industry, distribution, race, ethnicity, educational attainment, and sex. We have data from 2002 through 2023 for most of the 50 states, including DC. You can customize the selection area as low as a census block with disclosure protection. And input-output reports are available, which means you can import and export shapefiles and download and print reports and maps. Let's analyze this real-life example in the congestion tax put in place in 2025. New Yorkers now must pay $9 to drive below the 60th Street during peak hours. Other issues include parking for visitors not wanting to pay the toll and residents also not wanting to pay the toll. We'll start with the basics. This highlights the visualization of OnTheMap. Here is a screenshot of a custom selected area below the 60th Street in the Manhattan borough, showing the workers employed in the area and the employment locations with a total of 1,907,113 primary workers. When looking at the bar charts, the majority of workers are ages 30 to 54, and the earners are majority high earners. What's not visible in the screenshot is the two highest industries are professional, scientific, and technical services, followed by finance and insurance. We'll go live shortly to look at this closer and look at the data. The other bar chart highlights race and showing that majority of workers in this area identify as white alone. Here we can look at those workers who live in the custom area, which is 304,835, and where they live. We can also see that majority of those workers living in the area are also in professional, scientific, and technical service, followed by finance and insurance. And what's interesting to note is that healthcare and social assistance is the third highest industry in the custom area. Finally, in this screenshot, a picture is worth 1,000 words. The image on the left shows that 1,708,846 workers travel into the selected area to work. 198,267 live and work there, and 106,568 live in the area and travel out of the area to work. Let's go live to recreate these analyses. Okay, so the easiest way to get there is if you would bookmark lehd.ces.census.gov. So once here, you can see all of the different applications under the application tab. So if I click on application tab, it shows all of the different data tools and it gives you a brief description of all of them. However, I just like to use the easy to pull up applications on the left-hand side, and I will just go down 3 bullets to click on the map. Once there, you can see that there is a search box. So I'm going to type in Manhattan. And then once I do that, I'll click on search. And any geography that has the word Manhattan comes up. So I'm just going to scroll down to where it says County Subdivision and click on Manhattan Borough, New York, New York. Once I'm there, you see an automatic box pop up and it tells you what the square miles are. It tells you how many census blocks are in that selected area. There's a blue underline bold perform analysis on selection area. And normally I would advise that you can just click on that and go straight to the analyses settings. However, we're going to be a little more advanced in this. So I'm going to X out of this. I'm going to go over to selection on the left-hand side. And then I'm just going to clear the selection. I don't want what's showing here. And then I'm just going to zero in a little closer into Manhattan. And just to let everyone know, this is the advanced demo. So here we are, and if I zoom in a little closer, you can see that this is actually 60th. So I'm going to click over here where it says draw polygon on the left-hand side, and I'm just going to click on the tip of the coast and just kind of click on all the curves. I'm going to go straight across. And then I'm just going to lift it up and just continue. And I just messed up. But I just wanted to show you how it is. So like you would click on all of the curves so that you can get the selected area. This is how you would make a custom map. Once I get to the point where I'm done, I would double click it. And then you can see this is very crooked. It's not exactly the way it was when I looked at the screenshot, but you can see the selected area. I'm going to go ahead and actually clear that. And then I'm going to go back to one that I did previously. So I'll click on this. And I'll click on reuse. So that's how intuitive OnTheMap is if you've already made a map, a selected area, you can just go back and then it'll do it for you. So again, I'm just going to cross out of this and I'm going to scroll up, and then where it says add layer selection, make sure you have no selected layer, because we just want to look at what's in the middle here. And then also, if you wanted to, but we don't, but if you wanted to, if you were doing your own custom selection, you could do a buffer. You could do like a 0.5 miles or 1 mile from the selected area, or you can do a donut. You can look at what's inside and outside of the donut, but we're just going to keep it simple. And then once I have clicked on this and it's red, this allows me with a green check mark that I can click on that. So I'll click on confirm selection. And then I will have that pop up again, telling me how many the square miles are and how many census blocks are in that area. And now I'll go ahead and click on perform analysis on selection area. And once you're there, you have all of these different choices. So you can look at where the worker works or where the worker lives. So we'll just keep it on work. And then if you forget, there's all of these question marks that you can hover over that gives you a description of what we're looking at. Here we have 5 different analyses that you can do. Same thing, you can hover over the question mark. And then you can choose 2023 is our most current data, all the way to 2002. So you can choose as many years as you'd like so that you can look at the different trends throughout the selected areas. And then the job types is all jobs is every single job out there. If you have more than one job, that's where it would be. Primary jobs is what I'm going to click. And that is the job that brings home the most income. The other thing about primary jobs is that it does include federal government jobs, but it doesn't include certain jobs like FBI, CIA, DEA, all of those. So once I pick those selections, there's this big bold go with an exclamation and a lightning bolt. So I'll click on that. And highlighting the slide that I had showed earlier, now we can scroll down and see all of the different numbers involved. So we talked about 30 to 54 being the most, and that's over 1,088,949 workers. Their earnings, those that are earning 3,333 per month and more, that's 1,533,305 workers. And then again, if we just scroll down, and you can see on the right-hand side, instead of looking at the numbers, the percentage shares of the different industries, along with the worker race, ethnicity, and then you can see also the educational attainment, which we really didn't talk about, but majority of those that live in that area, those that work in that area have bachelor's degrees and more. And then male and female, you can see that it's pretty much close to the same. So 50%, 50.9 and 49.1%. I also wanted to show you everything on the left-hand side. As I mentioned earlier, if you wanted to choose more than 1 year, this is where it would be, and you could click on it and then it would tell you the different years. If you want to just look at the density, the jobs per census block, the bigger the blocks and the darker are the more jobs, and here's the legend that goes with that. Or if you just want to look at the density, and this gives you a really great picture of where majority of the workers are. So you can see here where I'm circling, majority of workers are there, and then also at the tip. And then you can also click on detailed report. And so it'll give you a report in a PDF, Excel, or HTML. And then you can export the geography, or you can print chart map, and let's see if it'll happen fast. If not, I'm just going to skip out of it. Or I'll leave it to bake and then we can come back and get it. And so there you have a really nice report that shows the map and the charts as well, and the numbers. Okay, so going back to the map, we're going to go ahead and change this. So I'm here in the left-hand corner, I'm changing settings, and I'll click on inflow, outflow, and I'll click go again. And this shows us exactly what we were looking at in the slides. We have 1,709,876 traveling into the area, 197,327 working and living in the area, and then 106,039 live in the area but travel out of the area to work. And then if you scroll down here in the table, you can see that the total number of those working in that area is 1,708,876. So let's bounce back to a PowerPoint. And then let's talk about OnTheMap for emergency management. So OnTheMap for emergency management, this is OnTheMap's sister map. It was developed in 2010, and this data tool is the only tool within the LEHD suites of tools that tells us population data from the ACS and 2020 decennial. OnTheMap for emergency management provides an intuitive web-based interface for accessing U.S. population and workforce statistics in real time for areas being affected by natural disasters. The tool allows users to retrieve reports containing detailed workforce population and housing characteristics for hurricanes, floods, winter storms from National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, wildfires from the Department of Interior and Department of Agriculture, and federal disaster declaration areas from FEMA. It also has comprehensive reports. It's easy to use. Users can look at historical events and flexible analyses and visualizations. Last month in an article, it highlighted how OnTheMap for emergency management is a fast way to estimate how many people live and work in the affected area, stating it's now part of a broader effect to make federal census data useful while events are still unfolding. We will look at this example of the California fires. You can find this article on the LEHD site under our LED in action. Focusing on the Palisades fire, but looking at the rural areas instead of the big cities, we can see those who are 65 and above with a disability in Topanga, California, using the ACS data who may need assistance getting to safety. Let's go live to look at this example. So as we talked about earlier, you can go back to the lehd.ces.census.gov. On the left hand, scroll down to OnTheMap for emergency management. And currently what we're looking at is the current natural events that are happening in the US. So we can see the red flames are fires. All of the orange life preservers are FEMA disaster declaration. There's a couple floods going on, and then there's some freezing temperature. On the left-hand side, you can see all of the current events, and then on the right-hand side are different natural disasters, and that you can look at each of them one by one. You don't have to look at all of them. So I'm going to go ahead into the search box. I'm going to type in Palisades. Hope I spelled that right. I don't think so. Okay, and once I type in Palisades, sometimes things that have that are popping up, but I want to just make sure. So I'll go to the filter and I'm going to unclick tropical storms. I'm going to unclick floods, winter weather, disaster, and COVID-19. And then I'm going to look for this area since it does have an estimated population. And then we zoom into the area. And then instead of looking at the whole area, I just want to look at Topanga. So I clicked on the blue event area. I'm going to arrow down to just cities, and then I'm going to click on Topanga. And then I'll click on select. And now it zooms into just Topanga. And we can see that the population there, according to ACS, is 8,878. And then we can click on disability status by age to look at some of the vulnerabilities. And 65 and over, there's about 452 that might need assistance when evacuating. We can look at those that are poverty in the past 12 months. Again, about 529. And then we can look at the different years structure was built. So we have majority of the homes were built in 1960 to 1969. And then finally, how many vehicles are available? So who doesn't have a vehicle to evacuate? So there's about 25 of those of people that don't have, or households that don't have a car to evacuate the fire. This can also be shared. You can share a URL. You can export, again, different reports if you need to. So we'll just go back again to the PowerPoint and keep moving. So now we're looking at the quarterly workforce indicators, or QWI Explorer. And we can see that this has 32 indicators. It has maps, line charts, and bar charts, and extensive tables, all which are interactive. You can download, export, and upload links to company websites or social media. We have newly released data all the way down to the 5 to 6 digit NAICS, which we will highlight in a case study. And the timeliness of the data is like no other at Census. For most states, we have data as current as 2025 Q2. We also have data that includes state and local government employments, as well as the private sector. Looking at a case study in Pennsylvania on construction, we can see that residential remodelers had more workers than new single-family housing construction. New multifamily housing construction and new housing for sale builders was 20,911 in 2024 Q2. But when we look at the earnings, it is the lowest out of the 4 NAICS codes. Let's go live to check it out. Again, if you have the LEHD still in there, I go back to the home page and then I will click on QWI Explorer, which is the second to the last. It already comes up Pennsylvania because I've been looking at Pennsylvania. And then I will go ahead and click on the 20 quarters, and I'm going to unclick all of these. But I think Linda put in the chat the exact one, so you don't have to do all the things I'm doing. You're probably beating me there. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on NAICS. And then we will click on this, check none. And then I'm going to type in remodel, so it'll bring it up. So we can see remodelers. What was the other ones? New, multifamily, and new single. And then residential. Oh, did I already do that? Residential. I did. Oh, and new housing. Alrighty. So I'll click on OK. And not 2024, so let's change that. Where am I? Tell you what, I'm just, sorry, I'm cheating. Okay, there we go. I'm sorry, I actually included more than just 2024. So you can see 2017 Q2 all the way to 2024. If we scroll down, and now this is actually earnings, we want to look at the employment count. So we can see, as I mentioned, residential remodelers are the most workers, which is really interesting when you look at that, considering all of the different home improvement shows. And then if you click on the indicator again, and then we'll look at the earnings. The earnings are mostly, let me scroll down a bit. The new housing for sale builders. So you can even see it here on the bottom table, 4,300, is that 964 earnings for a month for those residential remodelers, while new housing for sale builders are earning 8,836. And just in a year ago, they were earning 10,000, about 10,000. So that's always very interesting. You can always explore. Okay, back to PowerPoint. Moving on to our other data tool, Job to Job Flows Explorer. So J2J has 60 measures of reallocation. And like all our data tools, we have a flexible dashboard with maps, tables, and charts. Of course, everything is interactive with 6 different visualization options and data tables that can be downloaded. There is also easy to use help and documentation. Let's start again. Many workers are leaving California. Using the J2J Explorer data tool, we can quickly see that majority of workers are moving to Texas in 2024 Q1, followed by surrounding states like Arizona, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington. While New York remains the global capital for finance, media, and corporate headquarters, and Florida has similar climate, lower cost of living, and no personal income tax. On this slide, using the bipartite chart, it shows the industries that workers leaving California are going into: healthcare and social assistance being the top with 8.9%, followed by administrative and support and waste management and remediation services at 15.2%. So going live again. And again, clicking on LEHD, clicking on J2J Explorer at the top under applications. Here, it walks you through. So we're going to click on separation from. So those are the people leaving the jobs. We're going to click on California. We're going to keep it at all NAICS. And then we're going to click on any blue type. So we're going to look at which industries. And this highlights the map that we looked at in the PowerPoint. So if I hover over California, you can see that 8,498 workers left California for Texas. And I think it was 2024 Q1. And then the surrounding states, Arizona, Nevada, and Washington. The gray areas are either they are no longer in the partnership, or we are adding data as we speak. So we can go back to the first page or the guided entry. And now we're going to go ahead and click on separations again from California. And we're going to click on which industries. And then click on the bipartite chart. And then again, I'm going to change up this to say origin destination, origin NAICS. And I will change this to destination NAICS. And then I'm going to click on this trusty little ranking, and we're going to rank. So now we are looking at the top 10. And these are the top 10 that workers are leaving in California and going into. So you can hover over them and they're active. Okay. We have 2 more data tools. So this is our veterans employment outcomes and one of our experimental data tools. And here we can see the earnings out of all branches 1 year after discharge, those in the 25 to 50 and 75 percentile. 25 percentile includes E1 to E3, 50 percentile is E4 to E6, and 75 percentile includes E7 to E9. So let's go live. All right, under the home page again, I'll click on VEO Explorer, and then it automatically comes up. So here we are looking at 1 year post-discharge, and we're looking at the different percentiles. So we can see those in infantry after 1 year, the 25 percentile earned 23,230, while the 75 percentile earned 48,740. One of my favorite occupations in the military is the unmanned vehicle. I like to see how much they earn. So this is 1 year, and those that are 28,180 for the 25, the 50 is 43,700, and then 64,530. And this is 1 year after discharge. You can also look at the count. So how many veterans are in the area or are working in that area. And then you can change it and you can look at the different branches. So we can look at Air Force, Marine Corps, and Navy. And I don't want to not include Coast Guard. So there we go. All right. Okay, and finally, our last one. So another experimental data set, the post-secondary employment outcomes, or PSEO. Recently, we added this online university, which I find very interesting. So let's go live to look at the full scope of PSEO. So again, back at the home page, we'll click on PSEO Explorer. And I was looking at the online, but you can see all of the different states that we have. Hopefully one of your states are in there, maybe one of your schools, and clicking on online. And currently the online is limited to the different degrees that it has. But if I click on, for example, healthcare, and I'll unclick business, you can click on this button that says detailed. And then it looks at the different degree programs in healthcare and then what the earnings are 1, 5, and 10 years. So some of it we have, some of it we don't, but definitely here you can see registered nurses. After 1 year, it's 91,450. After 5 years, 103,017. And then after 10 years, 116,482, which is really cool. And then you can click on flows. So here we can see what industries they're going into after they receive this degree. So of course they would go into healthcare, majority of them, but some go into education, administration, and finance and so forth, and insurance. And then we can also see where they're going to. So now we can see the geographies that they're going to, such as Pacific, South Atlantic, and mountain regions. And this same thing, we have reports that you can print out. You can download the data. You can ask for help. Okay, so with that, running out of time or just in time, whichever. Here is the resources that all of the different data tools that I went over. Plus, there's an LEHD training tab that you can look at that kind of walks you through a lot of things. But for the OnTheMap analysis guides, actually all of the different guides, it'll tell you how to do a specific analyses, and you can self-teach yourself. Okay, so I think that's it. So if you have any questions, you can email me or email our branch, ewd.outreach@census.gov, or myself, Earlene.kp.dowell@census.gov. And I'm ready for any questions if there are any.
So thank you, Earlene, for a wonderful presentation. And thank you, everyone, for your interest and time in attending today's webinar. Now, today we have featured a fraction of data that you can get for free at the Census Bureau. To learn more about other statistics and data tools, please visit the Census Academy for the recording of this webinar, other webinars, and additional resources as well. I would also like to extend an invitation to come join us next month on June the 25th at 2 p.m. for a webinar called Powering Smarter Community and Business Insights with a Census Business Builder, where you'll learn about how to find and access key data to make informed decisions. Also, if you would like to submit questions after this webinar, please feel free to email us at census.askdata@census.gov, in addition to the resource that we have up on the slide right now. To ask your question now, please submit your question using the Q&A feature, and I will read the questions aloud for Earlene to respond verbally. So let's check the queue and see if we have questions there. All right, so Earlene, we do have a question. Does QWI incorporate data from the BLS, such as the QCEW and/or employer reported data?
It definitely does include the QCEW, yes.
Wonderful, thank you. Let me check back in the queue and see if we have additional questions. Also, just a reminder, if you would like to submit your question, please use the Slido button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. And that should be a way where you can submit the questions to us. All right, so while we're waiting for additional questions to come in, I do want to mention that we do have LEHD trainings available and webinars. If you check this, the link that were sent in the chat there, you can access the trainings. All right, so with the absence of questions, I do want to thank you everyone again for your time and interest. And now I'm going to toss it back over to our facilitator, Kira. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thanks, Linda. We actually do have one additional question.
Oh, okay.
How do you account for remote workers in LEHD data?
So currently we don't have remote workers, but if you do something such as think about the jobs that are able to be remote, such as finance and insurance, professional and technical services, education, you can kind of figure it out, but we don't have that information. Not yet, but we're looking into it for sure.
Okay, great. Well, this concludes today's webinar. Thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.